I'm surprised. Ready, Ali?
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask everybody to please take your seats. We're going to start in about 30 seconds. But if you could take your seats. Let me know when you're ready, or I'll know when you're ready when everybody's sitting down. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our community. Welcome to the Palestinian American Community Center's AlNakbah commemoration event tonight. Thank you all very much for being here. My name is AlNakbah. I'm Palestinian American. I was born in Turmusaya, immigrated to Chicago with my parents when I was 2 months old. Grew up in the Wicker Park, north side of Chicago. Went back home as a child, lived there for 2 years. So I was there for the first 2 years of the first Intifada, December of '87. Came back to Chicago in '88 with the Intifada and been here since. So I haven't been back to the Balad since 1988. I can kind of tell you how old I am a little bit. We're not going to go way too far with this. On behalf of the Palestinian American Community Center, we welcome you tonight. It's great to have our community come together as we remember and we commemorate and we tell the world we will never forget the catastrophe, the Nakba. It's times like this where we can come together as a community so we can share stories. We bring our children so that they can also learn about Palestine, what's happening in Palestine. Above and beyond the Nakba, right? I can share stories with you, but you already know the stories. Because like myself, a lot of you have heard it from your parents, from your grandparents, from your great aunts and uncles, so we know what happened in 1948. What we need to do is make sure that we're not only educating our children, but that we're also educating our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, and our allies, our fellow Americans, so we can build support for Palestine. We have to make sure that we're not staying only within the community, but we're going beyond to also educate our elected officials. Because there's an obligation for us as Palestinian Americans, as Arab Americans, as Muslim Americans, as people of justice, right? People who believe in human rights and justice. And I see a lot of our allies here in the audience today who work really hard with us, right, for human rights in Palestine. We have to make sure that we work in broad coalitions. We have to make sure that we're educating our U.S. Congresspeople, like our U.S. Congressman, Senator Durbin, right? Senator Duckworth, our Congressional Illinois delegation, the U.S. House of Representatives, right? They have to know that not only the Palestinian people, but the Arab and Muslim people, our allies in the Jewish American community, the Latino American community are standing with us, and we are here, and we are going to make sure that we fight for Palestinian human rights, and the right of return for every Palestinian and their children. Our conversations have to also include the right of return for Palestinians. We cannot sit down with any elected official and just say, let's be friends and let's take pictures. The Palestinian American Community Center has been doing really great work, educating not only the community, but the broader American, Muslim, Arab, and other immigrant communities. And we're working very close with our Jewish American allies as well here in Chicago and nationally. That being said, we have a slight change in our program. I was supposed to be introducing Selma tonight, Selma Al-Ghoul, who was going to just talk a little bit about her own story. She said she couldn't make it tonight, but I'm actually going to read to you what she was going to say. Is that okay with everybody? I read it, it's really heartfelt, so I felt like we had to share her story. Good evening. My name is Selma Al-Ghoul. In a month, I will be turning 8 years old. I was born and lived in the USA, but my parents always tell me that we are from the displaced village of Harbiya. Did I say it right? That, yes. On the Gaza Strip border. My great-grandfather, Henry, lives in Gaza. He is 90 years old, and he still wants to go back to his home in Harbiya. After AlNakbah, one of the occupation leaders said, they will forget. But I'm here today to tell you, and him, and the occupation forces, we will never forget, and we shall return. That was very beautiful. You know, a little girl who's 8 years old, born and raised here in the US, right, is making sure that she has a role in fighting for Palestine and making sure to remind all of us that there is the fight for the right of return as well. And we can never forget that. We will never forget AlNakbah. We are going to return, inshallah. We're going to go back to our homes. It's 71 years. 71 years too long. And it's time for us to take on a heavier lift as Palestinian Americans, as human rights activists and justice fighters. I encourage everybody here in the next couple of weeks to contact your US Congress. Let them know that you want to meet with them. They want to talk to them about Palestine. They need to hear our stories. And they need to know that Americans are on the right side. The Americans also believe in Palestinian human rights. And the Americans also believe in the right of return to the Palestinian refugees. Now allow me to introduce a young lady from here in our community, Aisha, who's going to share a short poem with us. Aisha is 16 years old. She's a junior at Access School here in Bridgeview, and she does spoken word. And we're going to hear a poem from her tonight. Aisha?
Assalamu alaikum. I just wanted to thank the United Holy Land Fund for inviting me today. I'm very happy to be here. My poem that I wrote was called Freedom Runners, and it's an open letter to Israel about the Palestinian occupation. Freedom Runners. Dear Israel, when you are tearing up our homes and breaking down our doors in the middle of the night, attempting to break down our inner walls and make us shiver with fright, when you are throwing canisters of gas through our windows as the waking nights pass, think of brave and young Palestinian soldiers, the ones that because of you may not make it till they are older. Think of 1978, 1948, the year where 700,000 people fleeing a war because of fleeing a war that they did not deserve. Think of those same people being oppressed, then refugees, and then having to find reserves. Think of the people who are running on Palestinian pride, the pride that fuels the pride that kills away the memories of all their loved ones who have died. Think of your soldiers who are killing on your commands. Think of 4-year-old baby girls who are murdered in the palms of your hands. Dear Israel, I've been running on faith and determination. the determination that fuels my feet to keep running and abandon my frustration. I said I am running on a soil that treats me more like human than soldiers with bullets. He points to the trigger and booms that he is not afraid to pull it. As if my life is less than his. I've got to answer his questions perfectly, but I wasn't ready for a pop quiz. Homes that have been raided and degraded, lives that have been lost, but the ones that in my mind have never faded. Israel, you seem accustomed to this daily massacre and this constant bloodshed. Ticking time bombs called soldiers in these waters I have to lightly tread. I am running on the ancestors before me, the children of the future and the Dead Sea. I am running. And it brings tears to my eyes to think that my children will be running too. And it comes to no surprise that babies born into war often grow up to be deaf because bombings are too loud. But I wish that their lives were more deafening, because then soldiers would quit questioning life over land. Living in a nightmare makes me want to run. Living in a nightmare makes my reality bullets and guns. Living in a nightmare makes me scared of big and bad boogeyman bigots. The same ones that poison my water and burn my bridges. Find a home of your own, one that you originally and have initially have owned. From now on, check under your beds and in your closets for Palestinian ancestors that have died due to your causes. Inna ma'a usri yusra. Verily, with hardship comes ease. Israel, I am begging you, please, think of me and think of us. Do your part, and in God, we can trust. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you. So before we start dinner, I have a few announcements, and then we'll leave you alone to enjoy yourselves and mingle with other people around you. In a couple of hours, our Palestinian political prisoners will be waking up and starting the hunger strike again. Please make dua for them. The hunger strike is about fighting for basic human rights. And sometimes we tend to forget that we have Palestinian political prisoners. We're working, we have our daily life happening, but please do not forget to dua for them every moment of the day. We have a few events coming up as well here in Chicago. There's an event with Omar Barghouti happening on Thursday, April 18th at 7 p.m. It's going to be at the Irish American Heritage Center at 4626 North Knox. We'll announce it again shortly. And as well as an event with Amira Haas, who is the Israeli journalist from Haaretz. She's going to be talking about Israeli colonialism. It's irreversible. And that is on May 4th. Thank you, May 4th at Best Restaurant in Pillows Heights. And one more announcement. Shah popular dance troupe from Palestine is going to come in. They're going to be here in Chicago Sunday, April 14th. Muhammad and Nasreen, could you raise your hands? Muhammad and Nasreen have tickets, so if anybody wants to join us on Sunday, April 14th, support this dance troupe, get your tickets here, or you can go online as well. Thank you very much. Enjoy your dinner. I'm back. Assalamu alaikum. So I have two announcements and then we have a surprise for you. You can have entertainment during your dinner. One announcement is we want to remind everybody that we are getting ready for Census 2020. Do you guys know what the census is? Yeah, what a question, right? So a couple things. We are encouraging our community members to participate in the census. And one of the things that you can do actually is go online. And the census is also hiring people. Go online. I forgot the website, but just Google census. There's going to be a link there. You can apply to work for the census. Chicago, we pay $21 an hour for census, so you should try to apply. But also, we really want to make sure that the Arab American community is counted in the census because it affects human services and other things for us in education. So please participate. And now let me introduce, are we ready? Yes? So let me introduce one of our awesome, amazing Palestinian Dromosaya Al-Salam Kabkachru.
نبدأ عملية مبروك يا أهلا سلام عملية. يا ظريف الطولاني بدنا يفهم شدوا عن مهرجان وصغير هو يا ظريف الطولاني
Table selling candy. If you buy candy, you can get a raffle ticket. And we have some really great raffle prizes here donated. A lot of good prizes. A lot of good prizes. So if you want to participate in the raffle, go out, buy some candy, get your raffle tickets. Make sure that you write your name very clearly on the raffle tickets as well. And then later on we'll talk more about our announcements, and we'll also tell you what the prizes are. Thank you. Okay, everybody, as you're eating, I just realized there's a lot of great prizes that we realized that we had. So I'm going to name them and continue eating. So if you buy the candy and you get your raffle tickets, your raffle will be put in a pot where you can potentially win one of these awesome prizes. There's a Bluetooth, it's $100 value, compliment to Metro PCS in Oak Lawn, a vase, $100 value, compliment of Omar Distributors, another vase, $100 value, also compliment of Omar Distributors, a dental exam and cleaning, $100 value, compliments of Orland Advanced Dentistry, Dr. Asfour, thank you, dental exam and cleaning, also from Dr. Asfour, a TV that's 32 inches, $300 value, compliments of Orland Advanced Dentistry, Dr. Asfour again, thank you, a bedroom set, $700 value, compliments of Life Furniture, Home Life Furniture, and then we have an additional 3 raffle tickets, 3 raffle gifts, I'm sorry, $50 gift cards from Macy's, from Global Insurance, and then there is going to be a ladies' white, gold, and diamond wedding ring auction, compliments of Hajj Amir Jabbar. Thank you very much.
يا اخوان صلاه العشاء بنحب نصلي.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope you enjoy the food. Al-Bawali Middleton's done an amazing food, mashallah. Thanks to Al-Bawali catering tonight. So we're going to go on to the program. We're a little bit behind, so I'm going to introduce this young woman who I actually just met tonight. I've been following for a while and does really great work. Are we ready? Can everybody please take your seats so we can start the program? Take your seats, we can start the program. I know it's really hard after we eat. I was just telling my cousins, and then after I eat, I need to go to sleep. So I'm warning you all, we need to start now before I knock out. Unless you guys bring out the side, you guys dance for us. All right. Again, we have a young woman here tonight who's doing really amazing work. She's doing something a little bit different than what I've seen around organizing peace justice work. Kula Ernem graduated from Northwestern University. I'm going to try and make this short. I was telling her I go to autobiography. Are we listening? I'm going to wait until everybody stops talking and I'll continue talking now. Right now we're going to hear from Colette about a film that she's created, and she's going to show us a trailer of tonight, which is called Traces of Hope. It's about her family story, going back home and finding Saddam. Is that fun? Is that fun? Yes. Come on, Colette.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. My name is Colette and I'm going to tell you a bit about the film I am creating right now. So, I am half Mexican and half Palestinian. My parents met and fell in love in this beautiful city of Chicago. When they met, they did not realize that they would have this one thing in common, which was that they were forced out of their homes when they were children. My father was in the AlNakbah in 1948. His home was taken in Suffolk. My mother is a survivor of domestic violence in Mexico City, and she never returned after being forced to leave her house to escape from her father. So we are taking journeys back to both Mexico and Palestine to try to find their original homes after leaving when they were children and never returning. So I'll tell you a bit more about the film, but first I'll show you the trailer of the film and what the progress has been so far. Thank you very much.
Hearing both Spanish and Arabic in my house, attending gatherings from both cultures, being part of a biracial family was always normal to me. But I never felt fully American, Mexican, or Palestinian. What was my identity? And why did I feel so distant from my origins? As I grew older, I began to understand the reasons my parents left and never returned. Reasons that forced them out. And now, we're going back.
I don't know what the mic is.
Born in Palestine, 1944. For us, as AlNakbah, 1948. AlNakbah means catastrophe. It was a very brand to the Jews to have their own land, which is Palestine. The Zionists came from everywhere in the world. They destroy homes, they kill people, they take one family out, and they explode the house. My family, they left everything. Always my father mentioned his house, his nice house. We had trees, we have so and so. Jews, they're converted to hospitals. So the promise of the Jews, they just go out and we come back. They never come back.
So what if all of us went, together?
I want to see where I born. I don't know. This is our land, and we have to go back to our land.
Ya, no, es que te ves muy como viejito, pero viejito que estás sentado. We actually met with his dad when he came to the United States. He spoke Spanish since he lived in Spain. He came up to me and he said, oh, I speak Spanish too. I went, you're fine. We both came to the United States not because we came here for better life, but because we were running away from something. I was born in Mexico City in 1954. My father was an alcoholic. When he would drink, he would become very violent towards our mother. He would beat her. He would force her to lie next to him when he had a gun.
under the pillow. My mother woke us up about 5 in the morning, and she said to us, put your uniforms on. If your dad wakes up, tell him that you're going to school. We are moving to the United States.
How likely do you think it is that we're going to find your house?
We have absolutely no idea. I think that my aunt would remember where it was at, my Aunt Nina. Time is passing and they're getting older, and so we have to move quick.
It was difficult figuring out how to make this journey happen. I knew my great aunt was still alive and might know where my mother's house was, but with my father, no relatives lived in Palestine anymore. Then we received something that would lead our path there.
If you are planning to visit with your father, the map also follows that on each house we have the name of the palace.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's amazing.
If I find my house, we'll be lost. We'll be lost.
So now, I've been able, right now with the progress of the film has been so far, we've raised $15,000 to go to Palestine. I just came back 3 days ago actually. We were there for 1 month filming to try to find my father's home in Safad. I won't say what happened so that you can see the film, it'll tell you what happened. But it was a life transforming experience because my dad hadn't returned, so it was like, it brings tears to my eyes just thinking about us returning to the homeland, so it was beautiful. Now I am raising funds in order to go to Mexico and to finish post-production, to finish the film. Hopefully in 2 years is my goal by the end of 2020. So my goal for this film is not only to raise awareness for the Palestinian cause and what's happening and the atrocities that are happening against our own community, but I want this to be a tool for social change. I know that film has the ability to change policies and to change legislation, and I plan for this film to do that with a national broadcast through PBS and like having it on major distribution platforms to make sure that we're mainstreaming what's happening in Palestine and also to the diaspora. So right now I am raising funds. I'm raising $40,000 left to go for this film, and I wanted to bring this out to our community, to the Palestinian community, to ask for your support both in sharing the film and also through funding the rest of this film to make sure that we are putting our story out there and using us as the first storytellers versus what story is being told about the Palestinians. So I am glad to meet you all, and I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. And so you can support at tracesofhome.com. I have flyers, and I also have a mailing list, so you can come to me if you'd like to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Kola. I'm going to remind people, get your raffle tickets to win those wonderful prizes. So now, I want to invite Abu Baha al-Aruri. Is he still here? Yes. Abu Baha is one of the main co-founders and was president of the Palestine American Community Center. He's been in our U.S. for the past 20 years. Currently lives in Palestine. Come join us, Abu Baha, and we're going to hear a few words from him, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to apologize for those who do not speak Arabic, because I'm going to be speaking Arabic. بالوحدة والصمود سوف نعود. شعبنا لم ينقصه أبدا الصمود. كان كان صامدا وما زال وسيبقى. شعبنا كان ينقصه الوحدة من أول بواكير المشروع الصهيوني على أرض فلسطين. كنا نواجه عدوا موحدا واحدا، سواء كان في الإمبريالية الغربية أو في المنظمة الصهيونية العالمية، ولكننا كشعب فلسطيني لم نكن على درجة الوحدة المطلوبة لمواجهة المشروع. وعلى المستوى العربي لم نكن على نفس الدرجة من الوحدة. كنا خارجين للتو من ظلمات العهد العثماني. تنقصنا المعرفة، ينقصنا العلم، ينقصنا كل ما يساعدنا على الصمود أو مواجهة المشروع. صامدون كنا وما زلنا، ولكن كنا نفتقد الوحدة وما زلنا. شعبنا لا تنقصه الشجاعة، شعبنا لا تنقصه إرادة التضحية. لقد ضحى، لقد قدم الشهداء، لقد قدم الجرحى والأسرى منذ أول هبة له في 1917. شعبنا قدم العشرات، المئات، الآلاف قبل 48، ولكن شعبنا عانى من الفرقة وعانى من عدم الوحدة. في بدايات المشروع الصهيوني كنا نعتقد أنه مشروع قام على وعد بلفور. لا، كان المشروع أقدم من بلفور. بلفور جاء فقط ليكتب عقد الملكية. المشروع الصهيوني بدأ مع حملة نابليون. المستوطنة الأولى أقيمت في 1840 المونتيفيوري في القدس لمن يعرفها. العرب كانوا في غياب، في غيبوبة، وشعبنا كان مثلهم. لم يكن في يده سلاح، لم يكن يعرف القراءة والكتابة، كان شبه أمي، 95% أمية. العدو جاءنا متعلما، مسلحا، مدربا، واعيا لأهدافه. نحن لم نكن كذلك. الصمود نعم وجد عندنا، لكن فرقتنا الأهواء، فرقتنا العائلية والقبلية، فرقنا الجهل. قابلنا اليهود بصدور، أو الصهاينة، أسف على الكلمة، قابلناهم بصدور عالية. لم تكن تنقصنا الشجاعة. لكن يا إخوان، عندما بدأت القبلية والعشائرية والعائلية تتسيد الموقف، هناك كان مقتلنا. كلكم تذكرون مجلسي ومعارض، نشاشيبي وعبد الهادي، جرار ومش عارف مين، وهكذا. لم نكن على يد واحدة. كنا صباحا نذهب لصلاة الفجر، وفي العشاء نذهب لصلاة الفجر، ولكن هل كنا موحدين مثل ما كنا في صف الصلاة؟ هل كنا موحدين مثل ما كنا في قداس الأحد؟ لا، لم نكن كذلك. كانت تنهشنا الخلافات العشائرية المطعمة والمدعمة بالجهل والتخلف. تذكرون في سنة 1936 قام الشعب الفلسطيني بأطول اضراب عرفه التاريخ، 6 أشهر كاملة، وأتبعه بالثورة التي استمرت حتى 1939. ما الذي قام به العرب؟ وجهوا نداء إلى قيادة الثورة بإلقاء السلاح والاعتماد على حسن نوايا صديقتنا العظمى مين؟ بريطانيا. طبعا ما هي الأم والأبو بريطانيا، لا سعود ولا اللي في شرق الأردن، هي الأم والأبو بريطانيا. قيادتنا الجاهلة وافقت عليها. اعتمدوا أيضا على حسن نوايا بريطانيا، وللأسف اليوم بنقول لندن مربط خيلنا، بس ما هيش مربط خيلنا، احنا خيولهم صرنا للأسف الشديد. في 48 عندما ذهب عبد القادر الحسيني إلى دمشق مكتب الجامعة العربية لطلب السلاح، قالوا له ما عندناش، فيش الأسلحة، وهو طالع على الباب برا حارس المكتب سوري بقول له تعال يا ابو العبد معايا يا ابو فيصل تعال معايا. فتح له باب مخزن كان معبأ بالاسلحه، وهم اللي فوق على الطابق الثاني يقولوا له ما عندناش سلاح. رجع عبد القادر الحسيني قاتل في القسطره القتال انتحاري استشهادي، واستشهد عبد القادر الحسيني. دخلت الجيوش العربيه الى فلسطين. لاحظوا خارطة تحرك الجيوش العربية، لم يتقدم جندي عربي أبعد من خط التقسيم الذي يقر في 1947. لم يحارب جندي عربي داخل حدود التقسيم، وقفوا على الحدود باستثناء الجيش العراقي بقيادة عمر علي، وهو بالمناسبة كردي، وهذا فيه إشارة يمكن لصلاح الدين. أيضا في منطقة الفلوجة كان عبد الناصر الله يرحمه، وهذا فيه إشارة إلى أنه بؤرة الصدام مع إسرائيل ستكون من مصر مثل ما كانت ذلك. نحن الآن نتعرض إلى ما نتعرض، عواصف من كل الجهات، عواصف من ترامب، عواصف من نتنياهو، عواصف من ابن سلمان، عواصف من ابن زايد، عواصف من قابوس ومن كابوس ومن عجيبين الناموس اللي بيستقبلوا الوفود الصهيونية في بلادهم وبيرفعوا العلم الصهيوني وبينشدوا مع الإسرائيليين الهتكفى اللي تقول اغرس رمحك في صدر عدوك. هذا معناه روحوا على النت وشوفوا ترجمة نشيد الهتكفى، شوفوا اغرس رمحك في صدر عدوك. مين لهم عدو غير الشعب الفلسطيني الصامت اللي تنقص الوحدة؟ عواصف تأتينا من كل مكان ونحن نتقاتل على فتح حماس، ونحن نتقاتل مين يروح من شان المصالحة. بتقافزوا زي الجنادب من القاهرة للرياض للدوحة لموسكو، بكرة وين بدكم تروحوا؟ وين ظل مكان ما شمتوش الهوا فيه؟ وين؟ اخجلوا في دم بسيل، في وطن بضيع، اخجلوا، توحدوا، لأنه هذا الشيء الوحيد اللي بينقصنا، الوحدة. التعبئة اللي صاير الآن مين أحسن، حماس ولا فتح؟ أبو حماس لا أبو فتح. وين فلسطين راحت؟ وين راحت فلسطين؟ كان كل أحد الإخوان اطلع على الفيسبوك بلاقي شتايم من حماس على فتح، شتايم من فتح على حماس، ولا كلمة عن إسرائيل. مظبوط، ما إسرائيل صرف على فاتبرنا ورا ما يمشي في الواجهة. اللي في الواجهة محمود عباس وهنيجي وفلان وعلان. يا إخوان، الوحدة هي المطلوبة، سواء كانت على صعيد محلي وعلى صعيد قومي. وبدون الوحدة لن يكون هناك شيء. شكرا لكم وسامحوني.
and Brother April are going to come up here and talk to you a little bit about what they're doing and what the money is great for. And I hope that all of you can support the work of Hoyland Fund, working with the Palestinian refugees and orphans in Palestine. Thank you.
السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم. حتى يجي الحج سعد. I think I can start with this. Sheikh? Those of you who don't know the United Holy Land Fund, we sponsor 500 orphans in Palestine at $50 a month. I think we have probably a 1,000 application that we don't have sponsors for them. See, I told you that's actually my name. At the moment, we have sponsors for 250. Our goal tonight is to close this gap. So, who would like to sponsor 10 orphans? Anybody? There comes the head time. عارف موسى وإخوانه $6,000.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف الهمة؟ كيف الهمة؟ تمام. حياكم الله. That's the conclusion of the Arabic portion of my speech. Tonight I'm wearing the hat of the United Holy Land Fund. And I'm very proud to do this segment, this very important segment of this program. As you know, we're doing this fundraising and donations from you, which you have been doing throughout the years. And it goes to two places, to orphans and to college students. Tonight is for the orphans. This is through Project Loving Care. Project Loving Care was pioneered by Dr. Raja'i Busayla in 1967. And he ran that program until 1991. Throughout the years, the United Land Fund has been following on his steps and have been collecting donations and sending them to the orphans in Palestine and other parts for the past over 30 years. The interesting thing about this, when you are donating money to orphans, you are giving them a ray of hope. You are shining their way. You're creating light and brightness in their life. Now remember, you're creating light and brightness in their life. Surprisingly, the one who started the program, Dr. Raja'i Busayla, rahimahullah, was blind, but he had vision. So tonight, I hope you will share with us his vision. Can I count on you? Can I kickstart this program with $10,000? Can I have somebody who will donate $10,000? And make this short because we have a very important speaker after me and I'd like you to stay and listen to him. Do I have somebody for $10,000? I'm sure I have somebody. I always do in this room. Before I move to the next amount, do I have somebody who will honor me and honor us with $10,000? I see some more movements there. Don't have much time. Work with me. I need the first $10,000. Pardon? Oh, you have somebody. Can I see that? Oh, I have this. Ziad Brothers, $10,000. Thank you. I need the next similar amount in this room. Do I have somebody who can match Ziad Brothers? I have a few more minutes to go. It's not going to be half an hour. I need about 5 more minutes, and I want to wrap this up. I need somebody to match Ziad Brothers? Have somebody? Do we have somebody who will match Ziad Brothers? Pita in $10,000. Thank you. Can I have somebody for $5,000? $5,000. Remember, النبي قال أنا وكافل اليتيم هكذا وأشار بإصبعيه السبابة والوسطى. أنا وكافل اليتيم في الجنة هكذا. You announced this already. Arif Musa and his brothers, $6,000. Hajj Raed Awad. How much? $6,000. Thank you. Let's keep going. I know I can count on you. I need the next $5,000. I wanted 5. Okay. Hajj Amin Jbara, $12,000. Thank you. I want 5. Who's going to give me the next $5,000? We got 4 more minutes left. The next $5,000. 1, 2, okay, I'm moving to $1,000. I need somebody who will donate $1,000. Is that 1? Hajj Fajwa Naji, $1,000. عن روح شقيقها المرحوم نبيل معالي. Thank you. Mr. Lutfi Daoud, $1,000. Mr. Samir Qasim Ibrahim, $1,000. Dream Homes, who owns it? Hisham Tahir Abu Allan, how much? $2,000. Dream Homes. Anonymous, متبرع كريم, how much? $10,000. Mr. and Mrs. Shahda Abu Khalil, $2,000. The best partners in Hajj, by the way. Nabil Al-Kook من Turmis Aya, $1,000. Mr. Samir Hajja. No, this is 5. Is it 5 or 8? $5,000. Muwaffaq Jbara, $1,000. Thank you. The next $1,000. The next $1,000. Ali Ismail Hamdan Abu Thair, $1,000. Thank you. Anonymous, Fa'al Khair, $500. The Abu Mishan family, $1,000. Thank you. Where's the next 1,000? Okay, I'm gonna go to 500. The next $500. No problem. Abbas Darwish, $1,000. Okay, when you fill this out, besides putting the amount of the name, please put a phone number. The next $500. Is that a totalizer? But I wanted 500. Abu Samir Nobani, $10,000 plus. Okay, I need 500. Next $500. No, we have 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. Remember, these are going to orphans. Timekeeper says 2 minutes. Anonymous, $200. Almost 1 more minute. How much do we need to reach tonight? 100,000. How much do we have? 81.7. It's a tall order tonight. Khalid Al Musa, $1,000. Thank you. I know you're mulling around, just speed it up a little bit. Mr. Muhammad Khalaf, $200. Anonymous, Fa'al Khair, $100. Dr. Qasim Bland, $1,000. He's a physics doctor. Moon doctor? Mr. Jamal Bland, $1,000. Ali Al Ghul, $200. You are really making my job easy. Just keep it up. 1 more minute. Firaz Naji, $200. Thank you. Where's the next $500? $500. Allahu Akbar. What's the total now? 85. We stop the clock a little bit, okay? When they're slow to come, we just stop the clock. That's why. Fa'al Khair, Anonymous, 100. Another Fa'al Khair, Anonymous, 100. Thank you. Okay, we have a few seconds left. We may not reach our goal of 100,000. We're close. We got 15 seconds, Mr. President. Can I get $1,000 in this 15 seconds? Okay. Linda Khatib, $200. Thank you. Najih Zaghloul, $500. Anonymous, Fa'al Khair, $5,000. We're almost there, people. Work with me. Almost there. Are we at 90? How much? 91? So far, $91,500. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Oh, it's okay. Why did you see that? قالوا مين حكى له يبزك ولزك؟ Very good. $30 a month pledge. Excellent. Suhail Abed. Thank you.
Wonderful. Keep those checks coming in. Can people donate online? Can they donate online as well? Yes. UHLF.org. So go online, donate, do your monthly donate contributions. Nothing better than giving to the orphans, especially Palestinian orphans. To move on with our program, tonight we have a very special friend joining us. He's going to be, the theme of his speech is building a movement to change U.S. foreign policy toward AlNakbah. I'm not going to go over his bio. His professional biography is in the program booklet. I want you all to read it. Calvin, come join me up on stage. Come on, my brother. Calvin Wesley is a longtime friend. Not only my longtime friend, he's also a longtime friend of right? So Calvin, when I first met him, he said, "Where are you from Palestine?" I'm like, "You're not gonna know where I'm from. Nobody knows where my town is from." He's like, "Trust me, I will." I said, "I'm from Messiah." He's like, "No, you're not." He's like, "You don't look like them." I'm like, "What does Messiah look like?" Right? Anyway, Calvin's been to Palestine quite a few times. He's been to Messiah many, many times. He showed me the homes in Messiah, mashallah. Very nice to Messiah. Thank you for your donation, Calvin. I appreciate it. I worked a lot with Calvin not in Palestine work, but also the immigrant rights work. He does immigration law. He's been very supportive of the immigrant community, Latino, Arab, whatever you are. He's a progressive, has worked very hard with us. He's a friend of Chewy's. He's working on Chewy's campaign. His daughter, Sarah, is working on Chewy's campaign. The county clerk's office, Dr. Nelson. So now the county assessor's office. So we have very strong ties here, as you can see. And especially because he likes my Through Messiah. Calvin, thank you for all your work. Thank you for being here tonight.
No, lift.
Thanks.
Assalamu alaikum. I want to thank the leaders of the Palestinian American Community Center and the Holy Land Fund for honoring me by inviting me to speak at tonight's dinner commemorating the Nakba. The fact that a Jewish man is addressing you is a testament to the efforts of many Palestinian Americans and American Jews to bring our communities together in the search for justice for the Palestinian people and a just peace between Jews and Palestinians.
The hardest part.
I do not want to spend my time addressing the facts of the Nakba. Suffice it to say that the historical record is clear. The creation of the State of Israel resulted in the expulsion of more than 750,000 Palestinians from their homes, and the subjugation of the Palestinians who avoided expulsion to governance by a state that officially discriminates against them in every aspect of their lives. The Nakba did not end in 1948. It expanded with the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza in 1967 and continues today in the lives of every Palestinian. You don't need me to recount the details. You and your families have lived and continue to live the Nakba. Most of you are refugees from the Nakba. You and your families came to the United States to secure a better future because the creation of the State of Israel and the occupation destroyed your homes, your villages, and your towns, and denied you and your families any hope for safety, prosperity, or democratic governance within the boundaries of the State of Israel, the occupied West Bank and Gaza, and the Palestinian refugee camps in various countries in the Middle East. What I do want to speak about tonight is how we can work together to change the policy of our government towards the Nakba so that our country can become a positive force towards ending the Nakba and achieving justice for the Palestinian people and a just peace for both our peoples. I believe the fastest way to end the Nakba is to change U.S. policy and to end military, political, and financial support which the United States provides to Israel to continue the Nakba and maintain the occupation. the Israeli government, and Israel's supporters within the U.S. government, within establishment Jewish organizations, and within many evangelical Christian organizations which support what is called as Christian Zionism, understand this, which is why they're working so hard to defeat our efforts to change U.S. policy and penalize those who support such a change. Let me share with you what led this Jewish man to come out as become an outspoken advocate for justice for the Palestinian people. My journey offers some lessons for how we can build a successful movement to change U.S. policy towards the Nakba and end the occupation. I was born in Chicago in October 1948, 5 months after the Nakba. My 4 grandparents were born in Eastern Europe, which they fled on account of increased hostility towards Jews at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. My father's family arrived in Chicago beginning in 1888, fleeing anti-Jewish pogroms, persecutions, in what is now the Ukraine. My mother's family fled Romania, where the ending of Ottoman rule in 1877 resulted in increased persecution of Jews whose rights had generally been protected by their Ottoman rulers. My maternal grandmother, Molly, and her family fled Romania in 1894 and found safety what is now in Turkey with the help and protection of their Muslim neighbors in Turkey. In 1911, Molly, who was just 17 and an orphan, accompanied by her 12-year-old sister, tried to join their older sisters in Chicago, but were denied entry at Ellis Island in New York because their brother-in-law was the leader of the garment workers' strike of 1910 in Chicago, which made our family subversives in the eyes of the U.S. government. Luckily, Grandma Molly found safety in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan, where she met my grandfather Mendel, where my mother Rose and 4 of her siblings were born. Life was tough in Saskatchewan. In 1924, my grandparents tried to join my grandmother's sisters in Chicago, but had to enter illegally because of the restrictive immigration laws enacted after World War I, greatly limiting the number of Jews and others from Eastern and Southern Europe who could legally immigrate to the United States. In 1927, my grandparents and their children, including my mother, were deported from Chicago back to Canada. There weren't many Jews in Saskatchewan, and in 1940, my grandparents sent my mother to Chicago so that her aunts could make a match with a Jewish husband. The match was made, which is why my sister and I were born in Chicago. Part of my grandmother's Molly's family ended up in France, where they endured the horrors of the Holocaust. 3 of my cousins, including a 2-year-old child, were murdered by the Nazis in the gas chambers of Auschwitz concentration camp in February 1943. As you can now see, my family shares with yours a history of displacement and the struggle to find refuge, safety, and prosperity in this country. I was raised in the Chicago area in a family committed to ending racial segregation and injustice in our country. During the 1960s, I marched with my African American classmates at Evanston Township High School as part of the Civil Rights Movement. In college, I continued my participation in the Civil Rights Movement and became a leader on campus of the movement against the war in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. After graduating law school at the University of Michigan in 1973, I returned to Chicago, where I became a lawyer dedicated to the defense of immigrants and their communities. As a child, I saw no contradiction between the progressive values of my family towards the civil rights movement and my family's support for the State of Israel. I was raised to believe that in the aftermath of the Holocaust, the future safety and security of the Jewish people required the establishment of the State of Israel. I remember being shocked when a Jewish college classmate criticized Israel for expelling Palestinians in 1948 from their homes and occupying the West Bank and Gaza during the Six-Day War in June 1967. As the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza continued, and the policy of expanding Israeli settlements on the West Bank and Gaza became clear, my views towards Israel changed. I refused to let my children march with their religious school classmates at our synagogue in the annual Walk for Israel. I stopped contributing to the Jewish United Fund because of its financial support of the occupation. However, I kept my opposition relatively quiet and avoided challenging my community's support for Israel too openly. What changed me, and please listen to this, were the voices of Palestinian Americans in Chicago and their families. One young client, Ashraf Milhem, who came from Katilia, challenged me after I met him in 1998, asking me why I was such a strong activist in the fight against injustice towards immigrants, African Americans, women, and working people, but was not actively involved in the struggle for justice for the Palestinian people. He questioned whether the reason was that the wrongdoer in the case of the Palestinian people was my own people. Over the next several years, Ashraf's challenge festered within me and forced me to consider how I could become active in the Palestinian justice movement. In 2006, I accepted the invitation of Mahan Jarad, a Palestinian whose family is from AlNakbah, to attend the initial meeting of the Arab-Jewish Partnership for Peace and Justice. Through the Arab-Jewish Partnership, I found a pathway towards becoming an activist in support of the struggles of the Palestinian people for justice. Since 2006, Palestinian Americans and American Jews in the Arab-Jewish Partnership have worked together to find meaningful ways to build opposition to the Israeli occupation and fight for justice for the Palestinian people. In 2007, I spent 3 weeks in Ashraf's family home in Katilia at the invitation of his father. With Ashraf's family, I experienced the harshness of Palestinian life under the Israeli occupation, living in a city completely surrounded by the wall and sniper towers, and traveling to the cities of Nablus, Jenin, Ramallah, Jericho, and Jerusalem, and many Palestinian villages between them, including AlNakbah, where I was welcomed by my friend Mahmoud Zahra to his home. I soon realized that the occupation was maintained every day by the violence and threat of violence of the Israeli military and Israeli settlers. At first, seeing the symbols of my faith on the machinery of the occupation, I felt estranged from my Judaism. But by the end of my visit to the West Bank, I realized that it was my very Jewish beliefs and my understanding of Jewish law that commanded that I stand with the Palestinian people in the struggle for justice. From that point on, I have seen no contradiction between my Jewish faith and my support for the Palestinian people. I returned with a renewed commitment to be part of the struggle to change U.S. policy towards the Nakba and to educate American Jews about the injustice of the occupation. On November 30th, 2007, I gave a sermon to more than 400 congregants at my synagogue in Evanston about my experience on the West Bank and my commitment to work for a just and peaceful end of the occupation. Several months later, I spoke at the Mosque Foundation in Ridgeview about what I learned during my trip to Palestine, and later received the Mosque Foundation's Community Recognition Award for my support of the Palestinian people under occupation. In 2007, I met in Chicago Iyad Bernat, the leader of the popular resistance movement in the village of Bil'in, and other West Bank villages committed to nonviolent popular resistance to the Israeli occupation. Many of you may know the movie Five Broken Cameras, which is the story of Berlin's resistance to the occupation. I accepted Iyad's invitation to organize the solidarity delegation of Palestinian Americans and American Jewish activists to visit Berlin and other West Bank villages committed to the popular resistance. Our delegation of 11 Jews and Palestinians traveled to Berlin in October 2013, where we were based while visiting many of the villages committed to the popular resistance, as well as Palestinian organizations leading the fight to end the occupation. On Friday, we participated in a weekly protest in the village of Al-Masara against the occupation, and together confronted the Israeli soldiers who tried to stop our protests. We visited the remains of Lifta, the Palestinian community near Jerusalem from which Palestinians were expelled in 1948, and Palestinian communities in the Galilee where we learned about the discrimination and oppression experienced by Palestinians residing within the state of Israel. While in the state West Bank, I also spent several days with Israeli human rights organizations, learning about settler and Israeli military violence against the Palestinian villages between Ramallah and Nablus, including Termasaya and Al-Nubiyah. I also visited Palestinian villages in the South Hebron Hills and the Bedouin villages of Negev, all of which are under threat of destruction by the Israeli government. When we returned to Chicago, our delegation spoke in many communities about our trip and our dedication to working together for justice for the Palestinian people. Members of our delegation have met with Senator Durbin and other elected officials to tell them about our experiences and actively support a change in U.S. policy towards the conflict. Palestinians and Jews in the Arab-Jewish Partnership continue to work together. In February of this year, we welcomed Palestinian-American Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib of Detroit to my home, where she addressed an audience of more than 175 Jews, Palestinians, and others about her plans as a member of Congress, and we raised money to support her re-election in 2020. Last month, we helped organize several events in which Ahmed Abu Artema, the visionary leader of the Great March of Return protest in Gaza, who spoke about the Palestinian struggle in Gaza. In the remainder of my talk, I want to share with you my perspectives on how best we can grow the movement for justice for the Palestinian people and end U.S. support for the continuation of the Nakbah. First, I want to emphasize how important it is to welcome all Americans, including American Jews, into the Palestinian justice movement. The struggle to change U.S. policy is a political struggle which can only be won by building a strong coalition of diverse Americans to oppose U.S. support for the Israeli occupation. I urge you to share the experience of your families during the Nakbah with your neighbors, your co-workers, your friends, your fellow students, and welcome their participation in the movement. By telling me their stories and the stories of their families and their villages, Palestinian Americans made me the strong supporter of justice for the Palestinian people that I am today. I urge you to do the same with other Americans. This is an essential step in growing our movement. Second, I urge you to become politically involved so we can elect more representatives to Congress and other elected officials who will work to change the policy of the U.S. government towards Israel and to support justice for the Palestinian people. Consider how the election to Congress of Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar has propelled forward the discussion of U.S. policy towards Israel. We need to elect more officials who support a change in U.S. policy. In the Chicago area, that involves support for Palestinian American candidates like Abdul Nasser Rashid, who this past November almost won a seat on the county board. We must also demand that candidates for public office seeking your votes, seeking our votes, commit themselves to support a change in U.S. policy towards Israel and hold them to the commitments once they are elected. Third, we must find a way to bring more Americans to the West Bank, Gaza, and Israel on trips focused on teaching them the reality of the Nakbah and the occupation for the Palestinian people. My experience on the West Bank and in Israel deepened my commitment and support for the Palestinian people. I am confident we'll do the same for other Americans who experience the reality of life under the occupation. While I understand the difficulties of arranging such trips and the particular risks faced by Palestinians who help organize them, it is essential that we conduct such trips. Experiencing the reality of apartheid and the violence used by the Israeli military and Israeli settlers to maintain the occupation will create new supporters committed to the struggle for justice for the Palestinian people. Fourth, it is critical that Palestinian Americans make it clear that the struggle for justice for Palestinians is not about religion and does not involve hatred towards Jews or Judaism. The effort by many American and Israeli political leaders to confuse opposition to the Israeli occupation and support for the BDS movement with anti-Semitism must be met by clear and unequivocal statements of opposition to anti-Semitism, condemnation of attacks against the Jewish people, and acts of support when those attacks occur. The support Muslim and Arab Americans demonstrated for American Jews after the attack on the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh last year, and the support American Jews have shown Muslim Americans after the attacks on mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, model how our communities must interact in the face of such attacks. Fifth, I urge you to recognize the importance of the changes occurring within the American Jewish community towards Israel. The vast majority of Jews disapprove of the Israel they see being created. American Jews disapprove of the Israel they see being created by Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. Over 70% of American Jews voted against Trump. The vast majority of American Jews despise the politics of xenophobia, racism, misogyny, Islamophobia, and hostility towards LGBTQ Americans being fostered by Trump and the Republican Party. Many Jews fear for our own safety in Trump's America. A majority of American Jews are upset that many establishment and Jewish leaders are not condemning Trump and the Republican leaders, and many of us recognize that it is these leaders' support for Israel that motivates the acquiescence of establishment Jewish leaders to the politics of hatred and bigotry of Trump and the Republican Party. All this is creating an atmosphere in which many American Jews are reevaluating their support for Israel. A number of Jewish organizations are providing opportunities for Jews to express their opposition to the Israeli occupation. Some, like Jewish Voice for Peace, are firmly committed to a one-state solution in which Jews and Palestinians have equal rights and fully support the BDS movement. Others, like J Street, remain committed to a two-state solution but express firm opposition to the occupation. Although J Street still opposes BDS, it also opposes legislation to penalize supporters of BDS and defends the right to advocate for BDS. Another organization, If Not Now, is successfully organizing opposition to the occupation among young Jews. Just yesterday, hundreds of If Not Now members demonstrated at the headquarters of Birthright Israel in New York to demand that Birthright teach Jews about the occupation and enable Jews traveling to Israel to experience the reality of the occupation. 15 If Not Now members were arrested for blocking the entrance to Birthright's headquarters. I believe each of these organizations is changing the Jewish community's perspective towards Israel and helping create the circumstances which can lead to a change in U.S. policy in the end of occupation. 2 more pages. Last, I urge you to consider, during this extremely difficult time in the history of our country, in which Trump and the Republican parties are committed to pursue a politics based on hatred, that American Palestinians understand the importance of being active participants in the struggles to protect all who are vulnerable in our country and our world. The Palestinian justice movement can grow best when it links itself to the struggles of all communities facing hatred and bigotry, and participates in the various movements to create a more just, more social and economic justice in our country. In conclusion, I want to affirm my commitment to support the struggles of the Palestinian people to bring an end to the Nakbah, and my hope that there will be a future in which Jews and Palestinians will be able to live together in a just peace in the land now occupied by Israel. At age 70, I have increasing doubt that I will experience such a future in my lifetime. Sometimes I begin to lose hope. This past January, when the village of Mujahid was attacked by Israeli settlers and soldiers, and Hamdi Nassan, the cousin of my friend Adnan Nassan, was murdered, it was one of those moments when I began to lose hope. But the next day I went to the Azad with Abdel Nasser Rashid to express my sorrow to Adnan and his family and recommitted myself to the Palestinian justice movement. In the sayings of our fathers, what we call the Pirkei Avot, part of the religious text we Jews call the Mishnah, we are instructed as Jews that we cannot avoid our obligation to try to perfect the world because the tasks before us are difficult and may not be achieved in our lifetime. Let's join together to build a just peace that will allow future generations of Palestinians and Jews to say there once was a Nakbah, but we ended it. And we created a new reality where we live together in justice and peace. Shalom.
So I'm going to combine the last two parts, the closing remarks and the raffle. I want to thank the Palestinian American Community Center for putting these events together every year, and I encourage all of you to continue working very closely with the Palestinian American Community Center. We need organizations like that are doing the political work with our communities, for our communities. Also, United Program Fund, thank you for all your great work with Palestinian students and the orphans. I encourage all of you to go online, UHLF.org. Donate online. You can do once, you can do ongoing contributions. We appreciate your time. And can I have a volunteer, a young person, to come out and help me with the raffles? The young man in the gray actually raised his hand. He said, me? No, he said, me in the gray? God. Yeah.